leading up to this game. He said this Albany team may be the most dangerous 16 seed that they've ever had to face.
And there's a ton of respect between both of these coaches. But that being said, this Albany team has the ability to play really disciplined basketball. They hold opponents to under 55 points a game regarding the defensive side of the ball, and they've had a lot of success in the America East when it comes to playing that defense.
Louisville 14-0 at home during the regular season. Colleen Mullen and company trying to come away with the program's first NCAA tournament victory over a number 16 seed as we are underway with the Cardinals winning the opening tip. Deanna Smith, just like that, with the three that gives the Cardinals the lead.
Absolutely no hesitation. Smith just saw that she had enough room to get that shot off, and boom, knocks it down with confidence.
Albany, along with Louisville, matching up for the first time ever. Albany knocking off Maine, the number 1 seed in the America East tournament. Colleen Mullen telling us yesterday that this environment is like an experience on steroids compared to what they faced in Maine with 1,300 jam-packed crowd. Off the miss, Hane for Albany as we take a look at the starting 5 for the Louisville Cardinals, brought to you by Capital One. All about Van Lith and Enksler, both named first team All-ACC selections. Olivia Cochran and Louisville, the number 1 seed, racing out to a 5-0 lead as we take a look at today's starting lineups, brought to you by Capital One for the Albany Great Danes, led by the likes of Ellen Hana, along with Helly Heigerstrand, one of the best three-point shooters on this team. As Grace Heaps gets the first 3 points on the board for Albany.
Heaps is such a tough player for the Great Danes, and she doesn't have any fear. Her ability to shoot the ball has been a great aspect for the Great Danes this season. Woo! 3-point shooting already in this game.
Speaking of no fair, Deanna Smith launching one from beyond the arc. First couple of minutes we have seen so far between these two teams in this 1-16 matchup.
They're gonna have to change the nets at halftime.
Hane, partially blocked in the hands of Enksler. Van Lith.
It's going to be really important for Albany to not try to get into a track meet with Louisville. They have to try to slow down, run their pace of basketball on this side of the floor.
Kayla Cooper, who was named the America East Most Outstanding Player. Hane comes back with some vengeance and gets Albany within 3.
See Albany playing this 1-2-2 press. They'll play a matchup zone. They get into passing lanes, and just like that, they have the ability to turn teams over.
Cooper, the steal, leads to the layup, and it's a 1-point game. Chelsea Hall, the feed to Smith, looking for her third 3 of the first quarter. Hane comes up with the loose rebound. Hane, one of 3 Swedish players on this roster for Albany. A lot of international flavor for the Great Danes. Cooper tried to go with the backdoor cut. Leads to a turnover.
Well, and how about the ball play for Albany off the start? Heaps staying aggressive, looking for her shot, but Smith has just come out firing the ball so confidently, shooting the ball 38% from beyond the arc, but she was excellent in ACC play, sharing 4th in the conference in 3-point shooting percentage. Louisville has so many different scoring weapons, and they can play inside-outside basketball, which makes them a tough matchup for teams.
Smith with the turnaround jumper. She's got 10, or I should say 8 points on 3 of 4 shooting.
As good as the Cardinals are offensively, defensively is why they are a 1 seed, because of their commitment to this side of the ball. The length and tenacity they play with on the floor when it comes to the press back into their half-court defense completely flusters opponents.
Heaps, the UMass transfer, dealing with 5 on the shot clock. Morgan Haney gonna have to force one up, and does that. A shot clock violation. Great half-court defense by Louisville.
And it started with the press initially because Albany took a second to get the ball up the floor. That ate some time off the shot clock, and as a result, Albany didn't get into their offense till about 20 seconds left. But getting these defensive stops completely fuels Louisville from an offensive standpoint.
Keep in mind, Albany, who's going with the full court press, is the second best scoring defense behind UCF, limiting opponents to under 49 points per game. They held UHart this year to 24 points in a game.
It's truly unbelievable, by the way, 24 points. And we'll see that in a quarter tonight probably, let alone a whole game.
Van Lith trying to feed it inside to Cochran. The sophomore muscles her way in, and the foul committed.
Cochran is so physical down low in the paint. And at 6'3", she uses great size, but look at the strength. I mean, she comes across the corner, absorbs the contact, but really almost contorts her body in order to get that ball to the other side of the basket.
Kenai Hayner, coming off the bench for UAlbany, commits the foul. That's be her first. Cochran, a 74% free throw shooter, misses the first. One of two drops for the sophomore. Liz Dixon, the senior out of Memphis, Tennessee, the transfer from Georgia Tech, appears for the first time for Jeff Walz.
See Louisville back to this 1-2-2 press. They put Ingsler at the top of it. Her length is truly unbelievable. Until you see her in person, you can't quite see just how long her arms are, and her ability to get into passing lanes. It completely flusters you as an opponent because you don't want anything to deal with Emily Ingsler when she is anywhere near you.
Ingsler, who's a transfer from Syracuse, leads this team in rebounds, blocks, steals, is a force to be reckoned with as Mikasa Robinson comes into the game for the first time, and you hear the crowd. The native of Ashland, Kentucky, one of the toughest, most versatile defenders in the ACC this year. And a 5-second violation and a turnover for UAlbany.
All of Louisville's momentum is coming because of the defensive stops that are happening. And not many teams in college basketball commit to that defensive end the way Louisville's been able to throughout this season.
Smith, jumper that drops. Kiana Smith has been on fire. She's got 10 of Louisville's first 13 points.
Well, she came out and knocked down back-to-back threes, so UAlbany sent out defenders on her to fly at the shooter, but she was able to take the pump fake one dribble pull-up.
Louisville's offense knocking down 5 of their first 7 shots. Ingsler sees a lane with the right-hand finish.
Ingsler saw that before it happened. The lane somehow magically opened up, and like Moses parting the Red Sea, Ingsler was able to find the angle to get to the basket.
UAlbany breaks the press, settles into their offense, trying to break a 7-0 run from Louisville. Timeout on the floor. Megan, what a start for the Louisville Cardinals.
Not only defensively, but how about the offensive end? All cylinders. The Cardinals are firing, and talk about Kiana Smith. She's been unbelievable. And Ingsler using her length. Wait to see what Mullen does, and I could see her getting another job at the next level here in college basketball.
Tigerstrand sets it up to Heaps. This suffocating defense for Louisville. And he knows Smith there for the rebound, and she has been the story in this first quarter with her 10 points. Turnover as Van Lith went out of bounds.
Louisville likes to play fast when they can, but sometimes you got to be careful in making the decisions on when to push the ball and when to pull back and just run your offense.
Full court press broken by UAlbany. Heaps, Tigerstrand was calling for it in the corner.
It's actually a better job by UAlbany breaking that press.
Ane slips with it. Tigerstrand taken away on the steal by Ingsler. Bodies flying everywhere. We knew it was going to be a physical matchup.
Ingsler looked like a D-back in coverage with that steal on that last play. This is practically a football field out here, but a really physical matchup. We saw this in the first round matchup where it's been a really physical ball game, and the officials are letting teams play, and I like that. Look, we're in March. This is not for weak-minded people. Let's go.
Talking to Louisville yesterday at shoot-around, they are playing with a chip on their shoulder, including Haley Van Lith, the leading scorer for Louisville, saying we've answered the questions about whether or not we're deserving of a #1 seed. A turnover. Inksler. 3 chances and a foul committed.
This is why Louisville is so difficult to guard. Their suffocating defense. Van Lith has some of the best shooting form I've seen in the country. Just gets that ball right out in front of her. The release is so quick. And then turning good defense into better offense. Inksler padding her stats a little bit, you know, keeps getting the rebound. She's so athletic that she can jump up and compete with nearly anybody when it comes up to pursuing the ball for a rebound.
It was interesting talking to Jeff Walls yesterday. Inksler is the perfect, what he liked to call cog in this defensive type of team. The physicality that she brings, the leadership that she brought from Syracuse, notable throughout this season.
Well, it was interesting talking to him about that too. I asked, why has she been so good in your system? And he said because of the type of defense we play with man-to-man, she's able to get all over the floor and use her length, and it really is showcased when you are playing that man-to-man style of defense.
Van Lith skies one high, Heaps with the rebound. Lily Phillips, talented freshman, blocked by Inksler.
Whew. She is all over the place.
Inksler for 3. Nane, no. Inksler with the rebound into the hands of Robinson.
Louisville is forcing Albany to take really quick shots in the offense. The Great Danes have to slow down.
Van Lith skies in for the offensive rebound. Perhaps a little bit too acrobatic, leads to a foul.
I tell you one thing, if I'm a player coming into the lane, I want nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with Emily Inksler, because her timing on blocks is incredible. And I know we've been talking about her length, but it truly is what makes her such a great defender. She's 6'1", but her arms are so long. She's able to be really disruptive at the top of that 1-2-2 press. And then on the defensive side of the ball, back in the half court, her ability to pursue the ball and get rebounds and just be completely disruptive is what has been a game changer for this Louisville defense.
The reason why she's been a national semifinalist for Defensive Player of the Year. Reminder, the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship first round continues today on CBS, TBS, TNT, and True TV. For more information on tournament game times and listings, go to ncaa.com. So Tuma Lee comes off the bench for Albany, and the struggles continue. 3 of 10 for UAB, or I should say, Albany's offense. Smith, wipe off the basket. 3-second violation against the Cardinals.
Despite the 3-second violation, that was excellent offensive ball movement by the Cardinals, drawing a double team down low, which left Smith wide open. And that's the person you want shooting the 3 if you're Louisville.
Jeff Walls still pleading his case to the official. A foul as Lee was driving to the basket. As Robinson will be called for her first.
I like Albany taking it to the basket. As a team, when you're not scoring offensively, try to get to the basket, get fouled, and see points go in the basket from the free throw line.
Lee off the mark with the 3. Peyton Verhulst off the bench, the talented freshman out of Kansas, who's made an impact this season. Van Lith driving baseline. Joy Sims checking in for the first time for Albany. Cooper spots up. And an over-the-back call against Kayla Cooper.
Louisville staying really disciplined defensively in the half court. As soon as the shot goes up, everybody in a white jersey is turning around and boxing out. Case in point, Haley Van Lith in that one-on-one defensive situation. Shoot or shoot, she boxes out, then gets an over-the-back call.
Louisville over the last 3 NCAA tournaments, a Final Four appearance, a couple of Elite Eight appearances, including last year losing to Stanford. The eventual national champion is Verhulst. That one just rimmed in and out for the three-point shot. Acrobatic shot into the hands of Chelsea Hall. As time expires, shot wouldn't have counted anyway, but Louisville running it down. 11-0 run. Kiana Smith started the three-point surge. The Cardinals proving why they were deserving of the #1 seed here in Louisville. Louisville with a 19-7 lead on UAlbany. There is John Smith, the father of Kiani Smith, who is Cal Poly's men's basketball head coach, and the family ties run deep with the Smiths. John, who was a star at UNLV from '87 to '89 under Jerry Tarkanian with UNLV. Her brother Jamal played at Cal State Fulton. Grandfather Fred Lucky Smith played for the NBA Milwaukee Bucks, and we can understand why the family tree is so deep. Look at the numbers that Kiana Smith put up in that first quarter.
Yeah, well, I want to know what the trash talking's like at the dinner table between the Smith family, because Kiana has made her case, especially in this opening game of the NCAA tournament. She came out and knocked down a three within like 8 seconds that have gone off, but just great to have that basketball family, the lineage, and how cool is it to have mom and dad in the stands supporting you during this time, which, look, this is the best time of your life right now. NCAA tournament, March, this is where the magic happens.
It's great to see John and Kelly Smith in attendance for this game. Don't forget, Jamal is now the director of ops at Montana State, who made the tournament for the first time since 1996.
So it's a good reason and excuse to miss this game.
Exactly. Well played. Alana Smith coming off the bench for the Cardinals. Verhulst drives baseline, too strong. Cochran fights for the offensive rebound and the second chance points.
Do you know how much fun it must be to play with Olivia Cochran? Because you could miss a bucket underneath, and she's going to come in and clean it up with that physicality and great decision making.
Tigerstrom trying to launch one from 3 off the mark. 13 points for Louisville off the turnovers from Albany in this first half. 8 of them has been a reason why Louisville has jumped out to this 21-7 lead.
Right now, UAlbany is just playing completely out of sorts. They need to slow down, run a good offensive set, and try to get a paint touch.
Colleen Mullen telling her players yesterday at shoot-around, you got to play in 5-minute spurts as Cooper draws contact.
That's exactly what the doctor ordered for the Great Danes. Get the ball to Kayla Cooper, who has been excellent for UAlbany throughout this season. She had a wonderful America East tournament. Able to get to the foul line now.
One of those players who has made an impact in her time. And we talked about baseball in the first game.
We did.
With Sam Hybe from Nebraska. Talk about that 70-foot pass that she threw in the championship game versus Maine that sealed the victory for UAlbany.
Look, you got to have quarterback skills to be a basketball player. Wasn't sure if you were aware of that, but it's a thing.
I was a punter in high school.
Well, that makes so much sense. And your last name's Brick, Lee. But we call you Brick.
I was not a basketball star.
You can build a house when he shoots.
There is a reason why I'm calling a game and not playing in a game. Hall works it down in the low post to Cochran. Lost the handle of it into the hands of Hane. Leads to a 2-on-1. Heigerstrand counted in the foul.
That was really solid defense that turned into better offense for UAlbany. And actually the double team came down on Cochran, and that allowed UAlbany to get into the passing lane and get a steal, and then ultimately finishing with contact. Hagerstrawn. Albany going to need a little more of that, taking good defensive possessions, which is what they've been able to do all season long, and turn it into great offense.
Knocks down the three-point play, the #1 shooter for Albany, and now a turnover forced by the press. Heaps with pressure defense in her face, gives it off to the freshman Phillips. And she traveled with the basketball. This defense for Louisville is suffocating in the half court.
Absolutely, and looking at Hall guarding Heaps in that possession, everybody on Louisville stays in front of their offensive players. So therefore, when you have the ball trying to go off the dribble, you can't go anywhere because Louisville is in the correct position at all times. You can't get an angle to the basket with the ball.
Smith, Van Lith, and Enxler back off the bench for Jeff Walls. Enxler with a wild shot. Good defense underneath by Albany. And commits the foul on the other end. That'll be her second. Hagerstrawn has converted on the last 5 points for Albany. And all of a sudden, we've got a game in Louisville down by 7 of the Great Danes.
And it all started with getting stops defensively. If you want to go on a run as a team, make sure you're playing a lockdown, solid defense.
7-0 run for Albany. Cochran. Such a physical presence in the low post. Sophomore going to the free throw line.
She's very physical, but she was really sneaky there too. But the handoff was coming, and then she just decided to keep it for herself, take one dribble, and got to the basket.
Kenai Hayner can go to the bench with 2 fouls. That's going to bring in Abby Robinson, the redshirt sophomore out of Mount Vernon, New York. Mentioned the numbers this year for Louisville, 25-4, make that 10 straight 25-win seasons for Jeff Walls. But again, it's that loss to Miami at the buzzer in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament is really where the Cardinals have been playing with a chip on their shoulder, even during shoot-arounds. Hall back iron to 3.
We had the opportunity to talk to Haley Van Lith and Emily Enxler, and they said, we've been the underdogs all season long. So that's where that chip on the shoulder mentality comes from. And credit Jeff Walls for instilling that mentality in his team, because a lot of 1 seeds are comfortable with being a 1 seed and walk in and think they're going to win every game. But this Louisville team feels like they have something to prove in this tournament.
Hane from the free throw line knocks down the jumper.
Albany looks much more comfortable in their offense, getting ball reversals, paint touches, and ultimately taking open good shots.
A 9-0 run over the last 3 minutes for the Great Danes has cut the deficit down to 5. This was a 19-7 game after the first quarter. Van Lith ends the scoring drought for Louisville.
It's just such pretty form from Van Lith. Gets the ball right out in front. That release is so quick. It's difficult to get out to her because she doesn't need much space to get a shot off.
She was top 10 in the ACC this year in scoring, coming in at over 13 points a game. Hall tracking down the loose rebound and foul committed by Albany. Well, we have a chance to look at the bracket for the Wichita Regional. We saw Gonzaga, the number 9 seed, advance past Nebraska. They played some great basketball, especially in that 4th quarter down the stretch to move to the round of 32.
Zags were just so disciplined from halfway through the first quarter till the end. I was impressed with seeing the veterans step up and the play of Melody Kempton. She was awesome for the Zags. Whoever awaits them in the next round, I gotta say, the Zags will be very well prepared for their opponent because they are so scout specific.
Senior talented roster, especially in the starting lineup for the Zags. Again, they work it down to Cochran, who once again is able to force the foul.
There really isn't anybody on UAlbany's roster that can bang down in the paint with Cochran because she's so strong. At 6'3", that size already prevents a challenge, but Cochran's ability to use her physicality and go up for offensive rebounds makes her so difficult to guard.
Cochran 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Offensive rebound, Van Lith with the putback. Talk to anyone who knows Haley Van Lith. The word that comes to mind is saucy. Inksler off the steal, behind the back pass, perhaps a little bit too fancy.
A little too saucy, one might even say.
Morgan Haney at the point, America East 6th Player of the Year. Instrumental in the win over Maine. We'll stay with the Great Danes at 12 on the shot clock.
Inksler wants to steal every single ball. The moment she has the opportunity to get into the passing lane, she will take it. And there aren't very many players out there that love playing defense, but Inksler gives off the impression that she loves playing defense.
She's a New York girl. Played her high school ball at St. Francis Prep, transferred from Syracuse. She is all about that physicality. Higerstrand, high arcing 3 and a shot clock violation.
That's the second shot clock violation that Louisville's been able to force against UAlbany in this game. Shot clock violations completely suck all of the momentum out of your opponent and give it to you.
UAlbany with 11 turnovers in this first half. They averaged 16 on the season. Van Lith, great dribble drive, counted in the foul.
Haley Van Lith can score at all 3 levels, and she mixes it up in a variety of ways. But after hitting the 3, she knew the defense was coming out to her, and therefore she was able to get the pump fake and get to the basket. This is Harda Goff. So shifty, crosses over. Help defense doesn't come. Haley Van Lith making it look easy for the Cardinals. Has been able to bring that to the floor, bring it to Louisville, and she's just been such a great player for this Cardinals team, not only last year, but this year. And Coach Jeff Wall is saying she's just consistently improved as a scorer. She can get through at all 3 levels, but I've been so impressed with the way she's improved on the defensive side of the ball. Van Lith is really committed to becoming a great one-on-one defender.
She has scored 6 of the last 7 points for Louisville. Went into the timeout with that great acrobatic play. And looking to cap it off with a 3-point play at the line.
For the remainder of the quarter, both teams will shoot the bonus.
Pick ball will stay with UAlbany as the full court pressure applied by Louisville. Inksler back on the floor. There was a foul correction. She only has 1 foul. Was credited with 2, but during the timeout they changed it to 1. Cooper squares up to the basket with Inksler. Cooper winning the battle. No, it just barely comes out of the hoop. Inksler looking to feed. As that defense tonight has forced 11 turnovers, 15 points along with 6 steals and a block. Inksler with the left hand off glass and in.
I mean, she was almost off balance getting that shot up in the air, but yet has the focus to finish. What a play by Inksler.
Cooper tries to dump it in. Triple team there by Louisville's defense, forces the turnover. Van Lith going coast to coast.
Nastiness in the paint is exactly what Louisville has shown over the course of the last 2 possessions. First off, Emily Engstler, I mean, come on. Uses her length. How do you guard it? You can't. Then I'll have a little trip to Europe with Haley Van Lith with the Euro step. And she is fired up. I mean, this Louisville team right now, despite having a massive lead, is playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're playing like they're down with nothing to lose. Been so impressed, not only with the offensive prowess of the Cardinals, but on defense. They have been able to play lockdown one-on-one defense. The press has been excellent. So far, the Cardinals completely controlling pace of play in this game.
Van Lith, a first-team All-ACC selection, along with Engstler as well, who's also named to the All-ACC defensive team. But again, the two have combined for 17 points, 8 rebounds, 7 of 14 from the floor. And tell me if I'm wrong, do they not remind you of the bad boys, the Detroit Pistons, with the type of attitude and fire and passion they play with on the court?
And the physicality as well. I love that comparison. And I tell you what, this Louisville team, they're just so tough. Like, they come out, they don't care who their opponent is. They're just going to play tough, hard-nosed basketball, get rebounds, and oh my goodness, just run at players like that. When you have a player and you have 2 people running at you like that, it's the last thing you want as an offensive player with the ball.
13 turnover force, bounce pass in transition. Engstler to Van Lith, little point back to each other.
Textbook transition offense by Louisville. The ball barely touched the floor, only a couple of dribbles to set up that bounce pass. I mean, Engstler, again, she's like a defensive back. The NFL's going to come after her and try to get them in her secondary. And then Van Lith running the floor hard. The pass is perfect. I mean, that's textbook. It's like you're in an AAU drill at practice and you're just trying to run really good transition offense, threading the needle to perfection.
Engstler takes a seat with 2 fouls. Puts Lily Phillips to the free throw line. Degree halftime report coming up at the half. Degree in the studio. We'll talk about Baylor and South Carolina. They both advance. We've got some early upsets. Kelsey Riggs, Monica McNutt, and Andrea Carter. Great trio in the studio. We'll break it all down for us on the first full day of the NCAA tournament. Chelsea Hall forcing her way in. Hall with her first 2 points of the game, and Louisville is really starting to feel comfortable on their home court. On the opposite end, UAlbany's offense has gone now over 4 minutes without a made basket. The block kept alive by Robinson. Smith for 3.
No hesitation. Smith just stepping into that shot. Nobody in a purple jersey were even near her. Her third 3 of the game, by the way.
Turnover, Robinson. Van Lith.
Van Lith has been able to get left at will. UAlbany has to try to force her right, but Smith wide open. We're talking all day she has to shoot. She could pick a show on Netflix and binge watch it. That's how much time she has. UAlbany has to get out there, get a hand in her face, and make that a tougher look for Smith.
Jeff Walsh telling us yesterday that Kiana Smith certainly has the talent to make it to the next level, to the WNBA.
Anybody who can create their own shot can make it to the WNBA and have the potential to play at that pro level. And Smith does possess that ability, not to mention she can shoot lights out from 3. That's always a desirable trait for a coach to see in a potential pro player.
Her parents, John and Kelly, in the stands. We met with John before the first game between Gonzaga and Nebraska. Just a great gentleman, part of that UNLV program in the late 80s. Played alongside Stacey Ogden. I joked with him, you just missed out on the winning Rebels with Larry Johnson. He goes, timing was never my forte. That's Hall. Drives in with a left-hand finish.
Right now, Louisville is just getting to the basket at ease. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Hall, Van Lith, Engstler. Everybody is just having an easy look at the basket.
Basket by
Sims with the easy look, 44-20, Louisville. 25 points for Louisville in the second quarter. That's only the 8th time Albany has allowed that in a quarter. Keep in mind, they've got the second best scoring defense in the country, but they've not been able to have an answer to solve the problem of Kiana Smith. 15 points on 6 of 7 shooting. Van Lith reaches out with the steal, turnover. And a tie-up underneath the basket. Back to Albany.
Louisville has just been able to have their way on the inside, whether it comes from drives, being out of position defensively, and Louisville's taken advantage. And on the opposite side, I mean, the ball just swung over one time, one ball reversal, and the lane was wide open on the right side for Smith.
24 points in the paint for Louisville in this game. And a tie-up with the Cardinals having the possession arrow.
Checking in for Albany, number 20, Kayla Cooper.
I mean, this defense has been absolutely suffocating for Albany. They've had nowhere to go. Players are flustered, and the ball hasn't been able to go into the inside. Paint touches have been very limited for Albany. Credit the way Louisville has been able to stay really disciplined one-on-one and not allow any open passing lanes or driving lanes.
Smith off the mark on the 3. Albany looking to gain some momentum going into the half. Ball, and Louisville can hold for the final shot. An offense that has made 10 of their last 12 shots, Megan.
I mean, look, Louisville has been able to get multiple people involved. Anybody who gets the ball in the offense for the Cardinals has the ability to score at the basket. And that's why they're so dangerous. Everybody can shoot and everybody can get to the ball on a straight line drive.
Van Lith with the layup. What hasn't she done in this first half for the Cardinals? 17 points for the sophomore standout. And the first half comes to a close. Louisville with a 48-20 lead on Albany at the break. What a performance by the Cardinals as we send you to Degree in the studio with Kelsey Riggs, Monica McNutt, and Andrea Carter. Half 17 of them that turned into 24 points.
And that's massive right there, because when you're forcing Albany to turn the ball over that much, the Great Danes have no ability to establish any sort of flow offensively.
Pick ball will stay with Albany with a fresh shot clock. Van Lith, and we made the point in the second quarter. I mean, she plays to me like Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, you really like this bad boys concept.
I'm telling you,
with this Louisville team.
hard.
No, and I agree with you, just because of how hard this team plays. You know what? They really haven't complained to the officials much. They've been really just disciplined, trying to play hard, make the right play. Again, really impressed with the intensity on the defensive side of the ball. Offense is fun. Everybody wants to see the ball go in the basket. However, the commitment to the defensive side of the ball is the reason why Louisville has this big of a lead.
Jeff Wall is frustrated by the play of Kiana Smith on that last possession. Hane with 7 on the shot clock, gives it off to Heaps for 3. Fight for the loose rebound. Kayla Cooper comes away with it.
Kayla Cooper had a great America East tournament for Albany, but she really has not been able to get super involved offensively for the Great Danes today.
She was a player that started off the first 11 games from the bench. COVID had some issues that hit the Albany program, and she has made a difference, just like Hane has, and a great way to start the third quarter for Albany's offense.
Those are exactly the types of buckets that Albany needs to start knocking down in rhythm shots where they have at least a little bit of daylight to get a clean look at the basket.
Enksler trying to give it off to Cochran. Into the hands of Smith for 3. Cochran with a double team, forces her way in, wanted a foul.
I mean, how strong is Cochran? And she's not afraid of physicality. You can send as many bodies at her as you want, but she will still find a way to finish down low.
8 points for the sophomore. Perfect 3 of 3 from the floor. Cooper. Drive to the basket with the foul committed.
Cochran is just so strong. Even though she has to juggle the ball just a little bit, she's able to still use the glass. She's kind of like, yo, where's the call on that? I mean, I'm finishing with contact, but can I get a little something for the effort? I feel her pain.
Was that how you argued with the officials at your time at Northwestern?
No, I didn't like contact very much. I didn't venture inside the paint as little as I could.
You were just appreciative to have game time.
Yeah, I was just happy to be there.
Yeah. Cooper knocks down both free throws. Van Lith, who picked up her first foul. Cross-court pass. Smith to Van Lith.
Albany went zone that possession, and all Louisville did was get one ball reversal, shifted the zone, and Van Lith was wide open for 3.
Van Lith with 20 points on 8 of 14 shooting, her 5th 20-point game of the season, and a block on the other end by Smith.
Smith has excellent three-point shooting ability, but also great size at 6 feet where she can block timing shots perfectly, but just a good ball reversal. The skip pass, and that forces Heaps, who is at the ball side line underneath the basket, to have to run out, and Van Lith does not need a lot of time to get a good open look at the basket.
Cooper off the feed from Phillips with an answer for the Great Danes. Cooper is a player that is starting to come into her own, and Colleen Mullen telling us yesterday she is the future face of the program.
Albany able to get a stop in that 1-3-1 zone. Louisville was a little stagnant, didn't get the ball reversals going the way they were able to the previous possession.
Ane. Lackluster pass leads to a turnover. Cochran. Van Lith down low to Smith. Can't capitalize. Cooper driving on Hall. Nearly stripped to the basketball, kept her composure, and that bucket puts her into double figures. Van Lith launching from 3. Cochran, rebound, and the putback.
I mean, you could hear her slap the ball from where we're sitting. That is how hard she goes up for the rebounds. This Louisville team is relentless in their pursuit of getting on boards.
Phillips. And a turnover, 19th committed by Albany.
Did you hear that slap? Come on now. So strong with the ball. She wants the N1. I mean, come on. Olivia Cochran down low, going to work. She's earned that rest, I tell you what, playing as hard as she has in this game.
Cochran today, 10 points, 4 of 4 from the floor, 3 rebounds. Inksler muscles her way in, that one in and out. Dixon, no, but the foul gets her to the free throw line.
I mean, Coach Wallace subs one post player in for another, and the size does not drop at all. Liz Dixon, in fact, is 2 inches taller than Cochran at 6'5", and still has that relentless ability to get to the board to create second chance opportunities. This Louisville team makes sure no offensive play goes unfinished.
ESPN's exclusive coverage of the NCAA Women's Championship extends through the championship game on Sunday, April 3rd. You can also catch all the action on the ESPN app. If you talk to the players, they'll be honest with you. yesterday. They called Jeff Walz, which I thought was incredible, one, the evil genius. But then Emily Engstler said non-neurotic when you talk about Jeff Walz. I mean, there is a great chemistry with this team. Turnover leads to a 3-on-1. Smith to Hall.
And honestly, I didn't even know that non-neurotic could be a compliment till Emily Engstler said it. And now I hope that when I compliment anybody, I will explain them as non-neurotic, because it goes to show you that Jeff Walz stays so under control no matter what type of situation his team is in throughout the game. But evil genius, that cracked me up too.
I live by the rule, whatever Emily Engstler says,
you listen to. Yeah, I just agree.
I was very intimidated by her presence yesterday. I can only imagine being an opposing player. Sims off glass and in.
We talk about being an opposing player, but you can see the chemistry between Coach Walz and his players, how much respect there is between both sides of it, coach and player. And it's the reason why this Louisville team has been so successful, is having that trust in the coach and coach having trust in his players.
A #1 seed for the 3rd time in the last 4 years. Lost to Arizona earlier this year is Morgan Haney launching from 3. They did have the victory against UConn and Michigan. So there's certainly some momentum going into this tournament to try to prove the naysayers wrong after that loss to Miami in the ACC tournament.
This Louisville team is no stranger to being a 1 seed. They've been the #1 seed in 3 of the last 4 tournaments.
Engstler with a beautiful 15-foot jumper. Quiet day for her, just 8 points, along with 4 rebounds.
It's funny you say it's been a quiet day, because I feel like she's been all over the place regarding her defense, but it's because she does the little things like get tipped balls, dives on the floor for loose balls, gets into passing lanes. Those things don't show up in the stat sheet that we're looking at right in front of us, but they have a massive impact on the outcome of a game.
The impact here from a steal leads to a layup and a foul. How about that play by the transfer from Syracuse?
Emily Engstler didn't even look at the basket when she went up with that. She was looking at the player saying, hey, yo, I beat you coming down in the lane. Emily Engstler having a little bit of fun here in the NCAA tournament. Faces, not only in women's basketball, but in the ACC specifically. She's truly a special player for Jeff Walz. And that's a nice little nugget you had there, by the way. Tom Brady going right after her father in the draft.
Only Tom Brady could completely bracket bust bracketology on Selection Sunday.
I mean, dude, talk about timing.
By the way, Engstler with that 3-point play, now 3 points away from 1,000 in her career. Sims, a block by Engstler. She has literally been everywhere on the court tonight.
Timing on blocks is massive, and Engstler does just that. Gets the angle, just tips it, and she does it so casually, just like, hey, playing like in the backyard with her little siblings. That's what it looks like.
Hena, long arcing 3 that somehow finds the bank that's open. What a 3-point shot by the senior standout.
You know, I've seen a lot of banked 3s. I don't think I've ever seen one hit at the angle that ball hit on the backboard to go in. But you get all 3 points still, even if you use the glass.
One of 3 players on UAlbany's roster, a part of the Swedish national team, into the hands of Hane, forces the steal. UAlbany in dire straits to try to come up with something offensively. Shot clock to 6. Hane. Offensive rebound and a fresh 20. Sims. Good play by the freshman in Verhulst underneath the basket. On the other end, freshman loading up from 3. This is a Great Danes program that went to the NCAA tournament from 2012 to 2017. Off the mark, Angsler there for the rebound. And a lot of credit goes to the Great Danes after a 9-win season a couple of years ago to get back to this point. Angsler forcing her way to the basket and draws the foul.
Angsler's been really aggressive, especially coming down with the ball in her hand, getting to the basket. But you gotta love as a coach to have a player like Angsler who stands a little over 6 feet and she's able to dribble the ball like she's a guard. Every single forward in women's basketball needs to have guard skills because that's the way the game is going. Women's basketball as a whole is a lot faster paced. You have to be able to step out and knock down at least the mid-range jumper, if not the 3, if you're 6'1" or above.
Jeff Walls was so complimentary of the play of Emily Angsler, how her grit has defined what the Cardinals defense has become. She tied her career high with 7 steals in this game, is 1 point away from 1,000 in her career. 13 points, 6 rebounds, 7 steals for the senior, who will take a seat on the bench. Down to 5 on the shot clock. Cooper's gonna have to force one up. Great move by the sophomore standout. Reason why she was named the most outstanding player in the America East tournament.
Well, anytime Albany has been able to get a paint touch late in the shot clock, they've been able to make a little something happen, whether that be a bucket or at least drawing a foul.
Albany starting to find their offensive rhythm in the second half. Perhaps just too late against the #1 seed in the Wichita region. Robinson, floater does not go. Tapped away, and we'll go to Albany. Final seconds, Heaps throws up an acrobatic shot, and the third quarter comes to a close, but the narrative has stayed the same. The dominating defensive and offensive performance by Jeff Wall's club.
The Cardinals have not let off the gas pedal, starting with Haley Van Lith, knocking it down from 3. The Cardinals are getting to the basket with ease, but most importantly, Louis the Cardinal loves it. Gotta keep the mascot happy.
Let's take a look at how the Swedes of Albany are achieving the impossible, brought to you by Adidas. The Stars, little international flavor that's been brought to Albany. What I find so fascinating about these 3 standout players is that they will often yell in their native language on the floor, mainly because of high emotions, and none of the teammates on Albany can understand them.
I think it's hilarious. I mean, talk about, it's like a dream to be able to speak a secret language no one understands, and not many on Albany understand Swedish, but a really cool opportunity for them to have 3 Swedes on the team. All have had professional playing experience over in Sweden, and that type of experience has translated well to the American game because they're used to a physical game and a fast-paced game.
And we just saw Hane on the bench. She actually went to a UConn game in 2013 on a family trip to the U.S. and fell in love with the sport. So she can thank the Huskies, who were led by Stewie, Steph Dolson, Mariah Jefferson that year.
Not a bad team to help introduce you to the sport of basketball.
Robinson hits the deck hard. And Jeff Walls is arguing that the ball went off the bottom portion of the backboard and out of bounds.
Well, he is correct. The ball did hit the bottom portion of the backboard. I mean, that literally hit the backboard. So it should be a Louisville ball.
Taking you from Great Danes is number 10, Ellen Hane. She replaces
Jeff Walz, certainly one of the more charismatic coaches in women's college basketball. Great conversation yesterday with him. Off the inbounds, has to be happy with the performance of his team tonight as Smith knocks down the 15-foot jumper.
Alana Smith curled off perfectly in that out-of-bounds play, had her feet set. That was an in the shot with her shoulders squared right to the basket.
Cooper had a strong third quarter, fouls up her own shot. One of the keys for you, Albany, going forward is everyone is returning next year. All those who have eligible fifth-year, super senior years are going to take it and return to the Great Danes. Haney with a three.
That's a big momentum getter for the Great Danes, but to your point, I think it says a lot about the program and how much this team respects Coach Mullen to all want to use that extra year of eligibility to return. Albany coming off a big America East Tournament championship, a run to the NCAA tournament, and all that experience is just going to help propel this team to the next level next year.
Bounce pass inside from Verhulst, finding Dixon underneath for the basket. Strong with the backdoor cut. Hane, what a beautiful play. That's the international flavor that we've seen with this program on display there.
A little Sweden backdoor cut, finds it perfectly, headed to the basket. That's the type of basketball that UAlbany has been able to play all year, and when it's going great, it's really difficult to defend.
Tiger Strong, the junior, is going to take a seat on the bench after committing her first foul.
Number 1, Lee, and number 22, Hannah.
Lee, driving baseline, foul committed before the shot. The big storyline, I think, and you would agree, with Louisville this year has been their fourth quarter issues. Miami was on display. They went scoreless, nearly 6 minutes to end the game. Jeff Walz took the responsibility, saying it was on him. It was a coaching issue in terms of the right personnel. And an over the back call. So really that's been the Achilles heel, because you go back to the game against NC State earlier this year and even to the Elite Eight last year. How do they rectify that problem the deeper they go in the tournament?
Well, first and foremost, Louisville is very well aware that the fourth quarter has been the issue with this team throughout this season. But talking to Van Lith and Inksler and Coach Walz, they are really focused now on these fourth quarters alone. And in this moment, they have to really lock in and understand, even though you're up by a great amount, you have no ability to relax right now. You still have to play with a chip on your shoulder, with a sense of urgency, because that kind of play sustained for 40 minutes is what wins you ball games. It doesn't matter if you win quarters 1 through 3, you still got a fourth quarter left. Louisville was up 15 in that fourth quarter against Miami when the Hurricanes came back and won it. You cannot take your foot off the gas pedal just like that.
Dixon right there, as you were talking about the hustle that you've got to have in the fourth quarter, skying for that rebound and getting the bucket to count. And again, offensive rebounding has been in favor of the Cardinals here tonight. But they've been playing with that chip on their shoulder all season long, especially as of late entering this NCAA tournament. Cooper's got to put it up. Lost the handle of it, and another shot clock violation by this Louisville defensive half court. Take a look at the Wichita bracket. We saw Gonzaga, the number 9 seed, moving on. After their victory over Nebraska, the Zags looked incredibly impressive in that second half. And the bottom portion's interesting, too. You've got a 5-12 matchup between Oregon and Belmont, and Tennessee going up against Buffalo in that 4-13 matchup.
It's a really good Buffalo team, too, by the way, out of the MAC. But you talked about that Nebraska-Gonzaga game earlier as you see him get the bucket to go. I was so impressed with how disciplined Gonzaga stayed down the stretch. And that veteranship, they have multiple seniors, juniors, fifth-year seniors. it's going to be a really fun matchup come Sunday to see if that veteranship can translate over to this Louisville team if the game continues to go the way it is.
Only Baylor and UConn have been better than the Cardinals over the last 5 years. That's how dominating Jeff Walz and the Cardinals have been. Angsler has already picked up her 1,000 point. Why not? Have a day, Emily Angsler.
If you're going to score 1,000 points, you might as well do it in an NCAA tournament game. And off a great move, just keeps the ball in the right hand, makes it look so easy, so swaggy. Emily Angsler is having a good time in a Louisville uniform.
The NCAA Women's Championship is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? The fans inside KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky, all smiles as the Cardinals have a 75-43 lead and a special fan in attendance. Jeff Walz's mentor, Hall of Fame inductee in the 2022 class, Paul Sandiford, who was a coach at Nebraska when Jeff Walz was a grad assistant. Had great success at Western Kentucky with 3 Final Fours, that national runner-up in '92 against Stanford, and the meaning that man has had in Jeff Walz's career. Coach Walz came to us before the game and said, please spotlight Coach, he's going to be in the stands tonight, because that's how much he has meant in his coaching career.
Coach Sandiford went to 12 NCAA tournaments when he was coaching at Western Kentucky. Just one of the great legends in women's basketball, getting inducted into the Hall of Fame like you mentioned. And again, I think it's amazing to see Coach Walz give some props to his mentor as well. Literally, he came over, there was like 2 minutes left in warm-ups, and Coach was like, hey, Coach Sandiford's here, guys. Make sure you talk about him. And I think it's such a wonderful concept that coaches really value mentors in our game nowadays.
We were prepping for our game, and we were looking at our notes in the last minute, and I looked up, and Jeff Walz was right in my face.
There.
And certainly making his mentor proud in the 15 years of what he has done with the Louisville program. It's been all Louisville in this game, but a special moment and a special relationship between two coaches. Louisville, though, it's been star-studded from start to finish. Let's take a look at tonight's Capital One rewarding performance, and the honors go to one who has been as good as advertised, Haley Van Lith.
Just the way Van Lith has been able to score at all 3 levels, getting to the basket, knocking down the 3. She's a crafty finisher, and on defense, she's been a menace, especially in the 1-2-2 press early on in the game, followed by stingy man-to-man defense. How much fun are those two having right now in this opening round of the NCAA tournament?
Great crowd on hand as Van Lith, along with Emily Angsler, has just been dynamic throughout this game. Both on the bench to watch the final 4:31. So let's look at the prospects of the Cardinals going forward. Many people thought that if Baylor had won the Big 12 tournament title, they would have been the #1 seed. Instead, it's Louisville. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. Build me a case for this Cardinals team moving forward the rest of the tournament.
Well, look. Offense wins you games, defense wins you championships, and this Cardinals team has made a commitment to the defensive side of the ball consistently throughout the year. Louisville lets up 55 points a game. That ranks 2nd in the ACC. It ranks 18th overall in the country. And in this time of year, when you're facing so many teams back to back to back that you're not used to playing, as long as you are committed to the defensive side of the ball, you have a chance to make a deep run in the tournament.
Robinson nearly came up with the steal. This defense for Louisville has been stingy all season long. They've been holding opponents to 55 points per game. If that number holds, it would be the fewest points allowed in program history.
Which is absolutely bonkers, because that is not a lot of points to be scored by an opponent. And again, the commitment to the defensive side of the ball every single possession throughout the entirety of 4 quarters. Players don't like to play defense. I didn't like to play defense. Nobody I know would ever actually admit to enjoying defense. However, this team truly does, and they've been really committed to it.
But you're the only person that would use the word bonkers to analyze.
And I think bonkers is an excellent word, and it's used to describe a lot of different things. Like, it's just wild.
And bonkers.
And bonkers. I'm just trying to add a little flavor to the broadcast, John. A little flavor here and there.
I think your jacket did that.
that I stole out of the Butler cabin in Augusta.
A tradition unlike any other.
Hello, friends.
Cooper with the right hand. And this will be an interesting 3:30 left to go to see how UAlbany plays out the rest of this game to take some kind of momentum into next season.
Again, this team has done so much this season, winning the America East Conference tournament. All players are going to be returning from this year to next, so this team's in a really good position to make some noise once again in their conference and potentially get back to the NCAA tournament.
Ane. Sims fakes out her defender, off glass and in. So looking forward now to Sunday's matchup in the round of 32, what we saw with Gonzaga coming away with the victory over Nebraska in that 8-9 matchup. Unless something happens here in the 2:35 left to go, it's going to be the number 1 seed Louisville moving on to the round of 32. How do you see that matchup playing out come Sunday?
Well, I think that could be a really fun matchup because both of these teams, see the 3 go down for Louisville. Louisville's committed to the defensive side of the ball, but Gonzaga has really experienced players that run a lot of disciplined offensive sets. And what I mean by that is a lot of ball screen action. Louisville's going to have to be really locked into how to guard those ball screens for Gonzaga. They were able to make Nebraska pay a lot today. So that's going to be interesting. But again, the matchup inside will also be intriguing because Louisville presents a lot of size. Gonzaga has some size too, but they don't have like a 6'5" and a physical 6'3" the way Louisville has.
The reserves on the floor for the Cardinals. Starters and key bench players watching the final 2:10 play out for the Cardinals, who are going to advance to the round of 32 against Gonzaga. Haney lost the handle of it. And Russell with the steal we just saw moments ago. Russell knocking off a 3-point shot. Keep in mind, the 80 points by Louisville in this game is the most that has been allowed by UAlbany this season. They did come in with the best scoring defense in the America East, second in the nation behind UCF.
This scoring attack for Louisville has been really balanced. 4 players scoring in double figures. The rebounding's been excellent, but I mean, at the end of the day, the defense for Louisville won them this game. They forced 25 turnovers for UAlbany. Cardinals, as a result, were able to score 34 points off of those turnovers. Good things happen when you play good defense.
Haney with the floater with 1 left on the shot clock. Morgan Haney, who had a career-high 20 points in the America East title game versus Maine, helping UAlbany put up a good fight in the closing minute. But the number 1 seeded Louisville Cardinals just too much and overmatching the Great Danes. But it has been a great season for, again, a program that just 3 years ago had won 9 games, and a turnaround orchestrated by Colleen Mullen in her 4th season with the Great Danes to bring them back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2017. All their players are coming back next year. And a 3-point shot knocked down, and the Cardinals are celebrating.
Well, to your point about UAlbany, the commitment to the defensive side of the ball is going to be massive next year. I cannot wait to see what this team does in the America East come next season.
The crowd here at KFC Yum Center on their feet after the performance by the number 1 seed. Louisville is heading to the round of 32 with an 83-51 convincing win over 16th seeded UAlbany. And here are the updated brackets. The number 1 seed Louisville is going to move on to the round of 32, where number 9 seeded Gonzaga awaits them after their win over Nebraska. We're going to see Oregon, Belmont, Tennessee, and Buffalo coming up on Sunday. So again, our final score, 83-51. Cardinals win for Megan McEwen and our entire hardworking ESPN crew. I'm John Brickley. Let's send it back to the studio with Kelsey Riggs, Monica McNutt, and Andrea Carter as we say goodbye from Louisville.